Now let's shake our microphones.
Is this warm up?
This
like
sounds weird.
It's like those shake weight things.
We just got to test to see if these mic cables work. Keep shaking, Paul.
I'd be worried.
Our wrists are real loose.
Oh, we get a lot of shots. Everybody come to the net. We just have to get more and more pucks to the net.
Pucks on net.
Pucks on net. Putting pucks on net. We used to talk about in Vancouver getting pucks on net.
What were you saying about putting pucks on net?
Continue to put pucks on net.
Pucks on net!
Put pucks on net and get lucky sometime.
Pucks on net and driving and making it a hard night on them.
Live on tape from Geeta's apartment in her palatial estate on the 23rd floor. This is Pucks on Net, a Vancouver Hockey podcast that doesn't talk about fantasy or fancy stats. And outside of one lone tweet, we're not going to do anything about April Fools, or we could get it out of the way now. Anybody?
What do you mean? You're just going to delete the tweet?
He said anything else.
Yeah, anything else.
He's allowed that one annoying
Okay.
April Fool's Day. I don't like April Fool's Day. I'm done with it.
That's fair.
Did you have a bad experience?
No, a lot of the jokes aren't funny, and they're so excessive.
I told the both of you I fell for one, and it wasn't a good one.
I think. Well, okay. What was the joke?
It was a headline on one of those blog sites. John A. McDonald statue to be replaced by world's largest gnome in front of Victoria City Hall. My reaction was like, of course they do that.
A gnome. Why didn't they think of that years ago? And then they realized the gnome has some, questionable history.
Although now that I say it out loud, I'm like, what if it's true?
It could be. There's always a few pieces of real information that nobody believes on April 1st. And then the poor couple that announced their engagement that just happened to be today or yesterday.
Well, that's got to be a joke.
Spends a month telling people, no, legitimately, we're sorry. We didn't realize what day it was. No, the one I opened my phone and saw as soon as I woke up was, I think it was Rick Dollywall said Nikita Triamkin was in town negotiating a new deal with the Canucks. And I was like, I didn't hear anything about that, and he's still got a year left in Russia. And I was like, oh, it's April 1st. And I closed my phone, and I got up and left my phone alone for the rest of the morning.
I love that if you're just like, the hell with this. You throw it, you go to the library
Basically. That's the alternative to using a cell phone. I'm going to the library where I can research any information I might need, but I'm not going to have to deal with this garbage.
And microfiche.
Yeah, I'd like a book that has nothing to do with fools or jokes or anything.
Or even the month of April, for that matter. Nothing that's been published in April.
Paul, you want your usual selection of Hardy Boys books? Yes, please bring them to me.
And a few Nancy Drews. It's 2019.
I made a joke on Twitter today that I felt I needed to clarify because it was 2019. It wasn't even that bad. Mm-hmm. Our softball schedule came out.
Oh, okay.
And I noticed hilariously that they don't have games on stat holidays, so no Canada Day, no BC Day long weekend, and then there's no.
They happen to be Sundays. Are you playing Sundays exclusively again?
Yeah, Sundays exclusively. But they also don't have games on Mother's Day.
Okay, but Father's Day
they do. So I was like, well, obviously. You're not gonna, it's gonna be easier to justify to your mom that, hey, or to your dad that I got a softball game. I'm gonna be gone.
So there are 2 weekends in May. You're saying you're not playing because Victoria Day would be the following weekend, no?
This conversation is getting too in depth for most of our listeners. Because I'm
trying to see if they're the same weekend for Ryan.
Might be. Oh, man.
Anyway, your old man would probably love to go to the game. That's what they're thinking. But yeah, it's totally sexist.
But at the same time, your mom, there's a lot of cool moms out there at the exact same time would want you in the field, playing the hot corner, hitting them where they ain't.
You set them up with a picnic, on the side of the game. They get to watch their kid play sports, maybe be somewhat successful because you weren't when you were a kid, and the people that tend to keep playing into their 30s are the ones that were only okay at best.
All right,
and
that
they
being
have the
said,
time of their life.
That being said, Dave's not on the show this week.
Oh, I did not say that. That was Ryan.
That was me. Low-hanging fruit. But I think it's just it's a cute generalization because we all know Mother's Day is way more important than Father's Day. And I've missed a lot of Father's Days for, I don't know, hangovers or this or that.
Let's steer
but
away.
you never miss Mother's Day.
No, you never miss Mother's Day.
No.
It's like my Oma's birthday. You don't miss that. That's May 2nd.
But yeah, let's move into other territory. Whenever you bring up Father's Day around me and or Dave, some listeners get a little weirded out with
that's two shots.
The dark humor.
Breadbasket there for Dave, yeah.
So, glad you tuned in today, folks.
My name's...
when the seasons get warmer, we get darker.
My name is Ryan. I'm going to be your host for the evening. I'm joined to my immediate left wearing a Jason Spezza Ottawa Senators jersey. She goes by the Twitter handle Jack Maxwell 1412. That's Geeta.
Go Sens go.
Their playoff push. And P Mac.
Thanks for buying tickets.
And P Mac in his Patrick Laine jersey. So it's 66% jersey on the show this week. That's P Mac over there.
Yeah, no, I pulled this win out of a discount bin. It was actually cheaper than your Nick Patan Jets jersey I bought you.
Our regular jersey wearer is wearing a button down.
Sorry, I should have packed 2 outfits.
You got
today.
the memo from the legislature. I take it.
There's no sleeves. There's going to be sleeves on this show. All right, folks. I want to thank you for joining us wherever you got us from. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksOnNet. And if you want to support the show monetarily, you can pledge $5 a month over at patreon.com/pucksonnet. $5 a month, that's only a couple of bucks. Just a couple of bucks. PMAC and I did a bonus show last week. We got 5 minutes for paying every week. And go pledge a couple of bucks over Patreon. Help cover some production costs, XLR cables, new fancy headphones, all that jazz.
Nobody has new fancy headphones. Are you keeping new fancy headphones to yourself?
It's for his other podcast.
I'm actually wearing very fancy headphones. I just don't want to rub that into your faces. Paul, before we go to the segment one, which is all Quinn all the time, you had a very intriguing moment. Was it on Quinn's NHL debut? Or was it driving home after the game?
Oh, yeah, it was after Quinn Hughes' first game, so Tuesday night.
Okay, so let me just set the stage. Quinn Hughes made his NHL debut on Tuesday night. It was amazing. Or was it Thursday night?
Thursday night.
Oh, sorry. There's been so many games lately in Vancouver, I'm mixing up the nights.
But
so Thursday night. This would have been Thursday night.
No, you were... this happened on Tuesday night. It wasn't Quinn Hayes' debut because I was able to talk about it. Okay, so Tuesday night... P-Mac's doing the game. He's in the trenches. He's getting it done. He's getting results. Whoever they're playing, probably some scrubs.
The last week I worked both the California games and neither team sent media to interview the players. So normally I maybe ask 1 or 2 questions max. Okay. I was driving the conversation this week because there's no one from LA or Anaheim to drive anything.
The Ducks game cracked me up because in the morning one radio station was like, I think it's time we give Ryan Kessler the respect he deserves. I think Elliot Friedman was on 650, and he's like, yeah, maybe the Canucks fans should be a little more respectful to Ryan Kessler, because this was probably his last time to Vancouver, and nobody clearly
hasn't played in 3 weeks.
Clearly, everybody forgot that he wasn't playing and hadn't played in damn near a month.
Right.
So this whole online, on the radio, internal, just rage of do we not boo the shit out of him, and then. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Paul, you're driving home.
Driving home after the game, feeling good. Going up the hill over on the North Shore, one of those hills. It's just mountains.
Up to your haunted house.
Up to the haunted house. And there's a roadblock out for whatever weeknight it was. Thursday, Tuesday? We think it's Tuesday.
I think it's a Tuesday game.
It was an unexpected night for a roadblock at 10:30 p.m. It's probably 11:30 by this point. And I'm waiting in the lineup, and I pull up to the guy and just like, where you been? I was at work. Where do you work? At the hockey arena. And he goes, what do you do? And I interview players, coaches after the game. And he goes, I recognize your voice. And I go, really? I guess. I mean, sometimes Sportsnet.
You
TSN,
saw me on Scrum Lurkers, didn't you? On
well,
Day&Day?
that's what I'm thinking. Like, they'll play the audio just straight, so you can hear me
Okay.
ask a question here and there.
But that would be real, like, perceptive
Yeah.
if you picked your voice out of that.
And he's like, no. You do that podcast. And I was like, this is the police officer stopping me for the road check. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, puck's on net. And I was like, yeah, you listen to us?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's
Hang
a
on.
great show or whatever.
Do you remember what happened next? And then you said pucks on net, and he said, yeah. And then he went,
I wish that would have been something. But he was I didn't get the name. I was so flustered. Plus,
Right.
there's a huge line of people building up, and they bring you through two at a time. The car ahead of me was long gone, and I'm like, I'm holding up the line. I have to get going. So I'm sorry if I guess he is a listener. I didn't catch the name. I didn't say everything I would have liked to say, but thank you for listening. Thank you for not holding me up too long. But anyway, it was a funny, not expected place to be recognized.
and hey,
Based on my voice alone, he didn't get a name right. It's not like he asked for my ID and was like, P Mac.
he knows. Oh, that's P Mac. He's straight laced.
Anyway, West Van PD, thank you for listening.
And I
we
would
appreciate it. Tweet us.
Or
Let us know who you are or use a burner account if you don't want to let us know who you are. So I feel like some teachers, police officers, those types of folks, more likely to have a burner account.
And if he really likes us, you get on over to patreon.com/pucksonnet and pledge a couple of bucks. Really getting use out of the Dave soundboard, which is brought to you by Patreon by Chris Schneider. Well, the great all that is holy and beautiful happened on Thursday night because
All
Quinn.
the missing pieces came together.
There's only two more missing pieces now. There was way more missing pieces at the game Paul was at on Tuesday, and now you have. I wrote on the rundown here because it's take a drink every time somebody refers to Quinn Hughes as a puck-moving defenseman. Because at work I said, "Oh, Quinn Hughes is debuting tonight. He's an offensive defenseman, offensively minded." And they stopped me and said, "Wait a minute. I thought he was a puck-moving defenseman." And I was like, yeah, I guess he is. And then it was just puck-moving.
What's the difference?
I don't know.
I feel like he's a moving mountains kind of defenseman.
Yes.
Because everyone else looks like a mountain next to his 5'8" frame.
It's like he's like Pat. It's like the old Pat Kane. Everybody looked bigger around him. Duncan Keith looked like a mountain man. But he specializes in exiting the defensive zone, which the Canucks haven't been able to do since 1997, which was even a bad year.
Talking about Jyrke Lume?
You betcha. Dana Merzen. And what else can he do? He can, there's zone entries, and
Christian Ehrhoff had a good little cup of coffee with the Canucks doing that stuff.
yeah, but this guy is not German, and I hear that is a little touchy subject. I don't know if you took history in high school.
I don't think we want to go down this road about an American and a German that light.
But he was
real dark this
No,
week.
what are you doing, Ryan?
But you said he's one of those missing pieces, and he debuted, and he looked confident.
Yeah.
He looked skilled. He looked everything you wanted him to be when you were worried about his transition from the, as we like to say, the weekend birdcage college ball league. Thank you. But it was great, and you were in the building, and there was a genuine buzz for him, and that could be because we don't have patience as a fan base as a whole. But it was a spectacle.
His passing is definitely very good, and you can tell as he gets used to his teammates. When it was off, it wasn't off by much, and he was working his way through. We've seen Elias Pettersson do a little bit of that, where he can pass through 3 opposition sticks and get it right on the tape. I saw a couple things out of Hughes where he went through the players with the pass, which is not something you always want to see youngsters trying, but he's the type of guy that you kind of have the confidence that you do in Pettersson. So it's the passing game. What really impressed me is his stick handling ability in tight quarters. So he's got a guy checking him, forecheck is on, and he's not like looping around to get around him. He sort of analyzes where the guy's coming at him, makes a little move, gets around him, or, just... You can tell he's an intelligent guy, and we saw that on his first point in the NHL where he worked his way in along the boards. The guy he reminded me of, which is a horrible comparison.
Don't do it.
And
Don't do it. Don't
Patrick
do it.
Colombe.
Oh.
You thought I was going the other direction.
I thought he was going to go the direction that would anger the TSN Overdrive
I'm
crew.
purposely bringing this up because, honestly, watching it, I was like, the stuff he was trying, I remember Pat Colombe played like 8 games for the Canucks or something 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
I think he played junior with Sidney Crosby. He's one of those guys that like looked good in the queue. Canucks gave him a chance. Did not look the same. He's like Dane Fox riding those McDavid coattails. And then you get him in professional ranks and he has trouble in the ECHL. Anyway, Patrick Colombe would try to cut in. He'd always be down low around the opposition net on the power play and stuff.
Okay.
I'm seeing that out of Quinn Hughes, except I see him having the ability to actually make it worth his while looking for those offensive opportunities. But I haven't seen a defenseman that young, that small, jumping up that deep in the offensive zone in a long time in Vancouver. If ever.
Oh, I was gonna say, so it makes fans forget that other defenseman they drafted.
Which we're talking about Oli Ulevi. I've talked about. It bothers me to some extent how poorly he's been treated. Where it's like he finally started to have a good year. He's still 20 years old. And then he has a season-ending injury.
Quinn Hughes is like.
Quinn Hughes did not. Oli Ulevi injured his knee by playing video games. I know this.
You have sources.
Because you were playing against him?
Yeah, he was on my Twitch feed, and he just, I hate to break it to you. That's why. All the rumors, all the skepticism, all the video game bans, Bo knows. Fortnite bad, nothing good. Hockey good.
Right. Law degree good.
Yeah.
Aye, Captain. Aye, and goodbye. There's a little Vancouver reference for the older folks listening.
Is that the captain?
That's the captain.
The commercials?
Yes.
You know they sell those shirts now?
Yeah, I saw Vancouver is awesome.
Yeah.
Has some good A and B sound ones too.
I bought one. It's a good fit. Got a good taper and a good neck hole.
Okay, well, I hope Vancouver is awesome is sending us some money for all this promo.
Actually, I tried to get our podcast featured on there years ago. And like, I'm sorry, we have a Canucks podcast that's starting up. And I went, ooh, those dastardly guys with their podcast. And then they had like 5 episodes.
Oh, yeah, we've outlasted everything.
Yeah.
We have really 6 years, 7 years. What are we? 6 years.
That's why we're taking a break next week.
Okay, but yeah, anyway, Oli Ulevi, I say still wait on that one. He's young enough. People are getting so used to NHL prospects jumping in at 19 years old that if a guy is 20 or 21 before he makes it to the NHL, people start losing their minds.
People don't.
Ulevi is still like 2 years younger than Hughes.
Oli
He's like
Ulevi,
a year and a half younger.
Okay.
he was drafted in 2015.
No, was he?
17 was
16?
was 16 because 17 was Patterson.
Yeah.
He was either 15 or 16.
He's 16. So yeah, he's like a year and a half,
Okay.
less than 2 year cap or something. And a lot of defensemen don't make the NHL until they're in their early 20s.
We know. I'm just egging you on.
That's fine. It's not you so much as just I keep seeing that on Twitter or in general conversation with Canucks fans, and I'm
It should
like,
just be April Fool's, Paul.
I gotta work myself up. After all these years of going head to head with Dave, I have to, give up no ground when anything comes up.
2016 he was drafted. 2016.
5th overall.
That was, I think, the Boston Pizza draft, too.
It was 2015 Boston Pizza draft. Boston Pizza, if you're listening.
But at 5th
Ryan
overall.
prefers Pizza Hut. That just crackled.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just the headphones.
Okay.
That's the official pizza of Vancouver Canucks, and I'm starting a grassroots movement to get people to buy Pizza Hut.
They could replace the roof at Rogers Arena with one of those nice Pizza Hut roofs from back in the day.
Big red roof.
The games are played at the Hut.
Works for me.
Ooh. They just call it the Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
They don't need to call it the Pizza Hut Arena or Pizza Hut Place. It's just the Hut.
Yeah, nobody's come up with like it used to be the garage for GM Place.
Yeah.
No one's come up with some replacement for Rogers Arena. What do you call it? Like the
the-
kiosk?
The phone booth was the one that was trying to keep their head above water. The phone booth, but I didn't really get that.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's not as good as the Hut.
No.
Okay, well that's a freebie we're offering you and your team, Francesco.
Well, they are already the official pizza, and they sell it in Rogers Arena. So that being said, we'll refer until further notice to Rogers Arena as the Hut, and I think that's a good idea. I think that's another grassroots movement that we should start on this podcast.
We're all about grassroots
We are
and movements.
God. Let's move some grass.
Like puck movements.
Yeah, just like
Like Quinn Hughes.
Forget about Ole Levy. Yeah, he looked really good. He had a goal. He had a very impressive assist, and then the best part of all in his debut, and they did it again Saturday because this team is all about 3-point games because it doesn't matter. They put him and Pettersson and Besser on in a 3-on-3 overtime, and it looks really, really impressive. And especially against Dallas, who's a much faster and much skilled team, they controlled the puck the exact same way they did against the Kings, which is that's a Willie D team, let's be honest. Did you see him on Thursday night? He wasn't wearing a tie for like the first period or two.
Who?
Willie D.
Yeah, I did see that.
Do you think he spilled like some ketchup on there or something?
I mean, ketchup. Well, it depends on what color of the tie.
Is
Maybe
it
mustard.
mandatory they need to wear ties?
No.
I think we looked this up because of the stuff that
Tortsy.
Tortorella was doing this year. Where he just wore like what did he wear? A hoodie?
Oh.
And there isn't actually a dress code for NHL coaches.
I think there was.
I think-
Because you can get away with like a shirt and sweater over top.
He's been wearing like a sweater under a suit jacket with torts.
I think he's just really cold. Like he's still wearing all the necessary stuff, but he wears like a zip up.
He doesn't want to get sick again, I'm sure.
Yeah, but when he wore the hoodie, he had the flu, and I think he was throwing up between periods.
Oh.
But I was watching. Who's the most revered and respected coach in National Hockey League history? This is not a sarcastic
Scotty
question.
Bowman?
Scotty Bowman.
I got caught up on the weekend watching like a 25-minute look into the Avalanche, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Detroit Red Wings rivalry of the 90s.
Yeah.
And when Mark Crawford playing Emilio Estevez, as they looked very similar at the time, when he was yelling at Scotty Bowman, Scott was wearing a like sweater.
Yeah, he used to wear sweaters sometimes.
And I was like, oh, well, there you go. If Scotty Bowman's wearing a sweater.
I remember looking up a while ago, and in the 70s and 80s, there was occasional like tracksuits worn by coaches still. So, I mean, I'm not sure. Now I've forgotten already. I feel like I looked it up. There isn't a really strict dress code, I don't think, for NHL coaches, but there's kind of an unofficial code.
I like that nice long wool coat look.
Oh, that's a good look.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's real sharp.
a business attire is business attire, but there is still some room to work with. But I think it's more of an unspoken agreement and unspoken rules that you want to look good.
Because it used to be Robbie Fatorik in Jersey who used to wear the sweaters.
Yeah.
The Bill Cosby sweaters.
Now even when they wear the Letterman jackets for the outdoor games, it just looks odd.
Yeah.
But
it's very try hard.
You bring up, you want them to look good, but here's the thing. A lot of guys don't wear suits that look good or fit well. So there's the thought just like, oh, if you wear a suit, of course you're going to look good. That's not always the case. Sometimes wearing a sharp tracksuit will look better than a guy wearing a poorly fitting, poor
James
color
Fleury.
selection suit.
Paul has a beef with this kid.
Yeah, let's go to the.
I don't have a beef with the kid. I love kids.
It's an audio podcast, so what did we do? What just happened?
We're watching the Vegas and Edmonton game right now, and they just put up a photo of James Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury's new little baby.
And he was wearing a Golden Knights toque, and it was adorable.
He was adorable, but if you've listened to previous podcasts, you know what Paul feels.
The darkness, which is the theme of this show. Paul, I'm going to put you on the hot.
Nothing of the sort. I said there's a lot of ifs that could add up to
Paul,
a less than ideal situation.
So
come
Malcolm
playoff time.
Subban's in net right now.
I'm putting you in the hot corner right now, Paul. Ken Hitchcock, tracksuit or oversized.
Are you talking about like his old Blazers photos we've seen of him in the tracksuit?
In this game right now.
Is he wearing a tracksuit right now?
No, but I'm just saying. You said one will look better than the other.
I haven't seen his suit tonight. I couldn't tell you. I don't have any issues with anything. Like off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I know I've seen the occasional coach who looks like he's still wearing a suit from the 90s that does not look sharp.
Hitchcock would. He doesn't seem like a tailored suit kind of guy.
He's a 3-for-1 down at Moore's kind of guy.
You know, they have some good suits. You just have to dig a little deeper sometimes.
Just dig into the pile a bit more?
Yeah.
However, Babcock, there's a tailored suit kind of guy.
Oh, that guy's got $6 million a year coming in to beef with a juvenile. He's spending his money on suits.
I feel like, yeah, Babs looks like he could be coaching in the 1950s, which is definitely an era with a different kind of suit, different type of energy.
And if you're a young-minded Leafs fan, you think he coaches like he should be back in the 50s. Come on.
Back when the Leafs would win things. That's half the battle in Toronto, right? It's just selling the... Somebody posted, did you see... They're like, since 1970, the Vancouver Canucks have won this many Western Conference championships, have done this, have had this many players win major awards. Toronto Maple Leafs have like one division title in that time.
Yeah, it would have been when
haven't made the finals.
Like 2000.
99 or 2000.
Haven't had major award winners. And it's like, I'm not one of those people that are like, I hate the Toronto Maple Leafs because they're the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've disliked them for sections of time in the past when they've had players I don't like.
1985 till 2009.
Well, I'm thinking specifically there was an era where it was like Brian Marchment was on the team, Ed Belfour was on the team. There's just a lot of like questionable characters on the squad towards the end of their somewhat, when they could still make the playoffs back then.
And yet they were really enjoyable when like Cujo was on the team.
Even then.
Nick Antropov.
Pony Express. Wait, was that Nick Antropov? Alex Ponkarovsky, sorry. That was Pony Express.
A throwback.
Oh, man, there was a time...
Lonnie Bahanas.
No, like, I've brought this up before, but there's so much Maple Leafs coverage. Well, at least they lead with Maple Leafs coverage so much, and there's so much readily available that anybody that played on the Leafs in the 2000s, they had instant name recognition. When, like, man, Matt Stajan, what a superstar that is. That's all I thought of Matt Stajan. Like,
speaking of that, when you say there's so much Leafs coverage, Matt Stajan reference. No, when I was at TSN and we were cutting highlights, that was like the pinnacle that you would aspire to, is that you would be assigned the Leafs game because you couldn't get any higher than that.
And did you ever cut the Leafs game?
No, because those would go to like the full-time and paid employees.
Fucking pricks.
Yeah, as an intern, you were getting like, I don't want to put down any sport, but
Golf? No, golf's hard to cut, I would think.
I loved, like, I would fight for that, but it would like...
Basketball?
You would get basketball games. I like got the LPGA ones, stuff like that. Yeah.
But yeah, cutting Leafs highlights. Let's get some more Matt Stajan on SportsCenter. What do we have on the Toronto Maple Leafs? They just won tonight, so they clinched the playoffs. The slightly backwards, nonsensical idea that the Toronto Maple Leafs could potentially get usurped in that third spot by the Habs is officially done and dead. So for the 47th time, the Toronto Maple Leafs will play the Boston Bruins
in a row.
I guess it's the third time, but I mean that first Leafs team.
Third time's a charm.
Just in recent memory.
Yeah, outside of Nazem Kadri or maybe Jake Gardiner, nobody was really on that team. But it's just it's swirling in their heads.
Yeah. Feels like the first time.
They lost to the Ottawa Senators 4-2 on Saturday. Everybody's starting to concern. The story for the next week will be: can the Maple Leafs get it together in time for the playoffs? In time for the Boston Bruins?
What do you think, Paul?
I might need to give Ponikarovsky a call.
I've been saying that for years. The Pony Express, get him back on. I'm not too concerned about this.
No.
Again, this feels like a dragon slaying year. I've said this every week, and I'll continue to say it. So if you're betting on the Leafs, you can go for it.
That series could go either way.
He's saying bet on the Leafs.
Yeah, I am. Or if it's a coin flip situation,
Bet on the Leafs.
Let him take Boston and you take the Leafs.
Look, we've been great prognosticators this year of things happening in the NHL.
Yeah.
So bet on the Leafs.
I mean, if you do a quick breakdown of that, like goaltending, Anderson's probably the best goalie in the series, but Boston's got two goalies who can theoretically win you a series. No, Khudobin's in Dallas right now. Right. It's Rask backed up by Halak.
That's right, yeah.
So you got two goalies who have both played relatively well this season. Mm-hmm. If you need a backup, Boston's in better shape, but going into it, maybe give advantage Toronto, so it's equal there. Boston's D is going to be better than Toronto's in all likelihood.
Well, even our defense core is better than the Toronto.
I don't know
Maple
about
Leafs.
that.
We're pretty good.
They just found the missing piece. Did you not hear?
Are you talking about me on the blue line?
Oh, yeah, Quinn Hughes.
About us?
That's the biggest. Okay, now, not to do the Toronto bias, but this is my Toronto bias saying we'll go back to setting up the Maple Leafs and the Bruins. There's two things that just like the biggest eye roll ever. Now, I can admit that every fan base in Canada gets excited about their players. Canucks, we've been, we've gotten really excited about 4 different times with Besser and Pettersson, and now Hughes and Horvat growing there, and like every fan base gets overly excited. It needs to pump the brakes on their fandom for these players. They're 19. We don't know what the hell they're gonna do, but in Toronto, they're already planning, they're already speculating, prognosticating that Quinn Hughes will sign as a free agent with the Toronto Maple Leafs in no time because he grew up a fan because his father was their strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, there's photos of them in Leafs gear at some of the outdoor
games. The John
games.
Tavares approach.
Yes, so they already applied that to him, an American boy, and he's 2 games into the NHL.
Oh, good Lord.
He was born down in Florida, so are we sure he doesn't want to be a Panther or a Lightning?
We are all Panthers. We are all Ings. And the other thing was they go to the TSN Leafs lunch or Overdrive or whatever it is. Jeff O'Neill. Like, first off, you're on camera.
Yeah.
Sit up straight, you slob. He probably had the same ketchup that Willie D had on his tie. He looked like a.
He had changed out of his shirt and tie because he's spilled. He ate a dog for lunch. So it's the Willie situation. There's nothing wrong with that. He brought a backup shirt. Give the guy a break.
And they go, "Oh, Quinn Hughes debuted." I think it was the night after. If I'm wrong, whatever. Either I'm pretty sure it was the night after his debut. And it's like, yeah, he debuted. a lot to look forward to, but he's pretty small. He's not going to be Bobby Orr. And it's like that is their and it's an out of context clip. We don't get that. We don't watch that. But for his initial response be
right.
I mean I don't know why they're getting all excited about him. He's not going to be Bobby Orr.
You could pretty much say that about every single defenseman entering the NHL at any point.
Even arguably the defenseman that's better than him, Nick Lidstrom.
Oh yeah, is
not going to be no Bobby Orr.
No.
So that's a weird.
But that being said, we have a 20-minute piece on why Mitch Marner is the greatest passer in NHL history, and the only reason they don't beat the Bruins is because they're just mean and they don't play by the rules correctly.
Of course.
Now which, is not an excuse we would ever use on this coast.
No.
That's the thing. They're going to take clips of what's his name?
The Bruins are mean, right?
Are mean boys.
In Toronto, they're probably taking clips of Walker off Sportsnet Radio.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Walker, who it's his job to just say things that make people mad. Then people try to like, these people in Vancouver, they're talking about Morgan Riley, their own boy from West Vancouver, saying he's not Bobby Orr.
Can you believe that?
I mean, he's not, but still.
He could be.
So, I don't know. It's Jeff O'Neill.
Are we waiting for the second coming of Bobby Orr? I didn't get that memo.
Yeah.
And even with the Pettersson thing, it grew where someone was like, the way he thinks the game and the way he does a couple of things are in a similar style to Gretzky. They weren't saying he was Gretzky.
I thought you were going to say he's not Peter Forsberg.
Certainly not Peter Forsberg. Peter Forsberg was so gritty.
There's a comparison that probably hasn't been made.
That's the one player, yeah. Even though they're both countrymen and both...
No, everyone was comparing him after that shootout goal because it was the Forsberg move from the Olympics on Corey Hirsch.
Right.
Anyway, I'm just saying... This Jeff O'Neill's job
was Pedersen
is
even alive in '94?
Oh no, but he's seen the footage.
He didn't stay up to watch it.
He watched the tape. It's fine. He knows all about that Red Wings rivalry.
No, it's funny if you grow up in a household that's somewhat of a hockey fan.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many kids. When I was a kid, my dad was a huge Habs fan, so I was like, oh, Maurice Richard and Boom Boom Geoffrion, who I don't even think my dad saw play because he's not that old. Wasn't that old. But it's the same thing now where kids go, oh, I want to be like Wayne Gretzky. The kids drafted now were born around the time he retired. So you're watching tape and you're going on what your dad told you. Ray Bourque, these kids were like 2 years old when Ray Bourque won the Stanley Cup.
Those kids are born in 2001 and 2002. We don't even know if they saw Gretzky play.
No, they didn't. That's what I'm saying.
Who's that old man that wore a turtleneck and didn't wear any shoulder pads?
But kids do still say it because their mom and dad have told them.
My dad told me like 3 times over my life that he liked Stan Mikita growing up, but now I'm like, by golly, my dad's favorite player was Stan Mikita, and I'll wear 21 one day. And I'm like, he said that he also just that's what happens. When
my dad was a big Mikita fan, and I think part of it was because they made him wear 21 even though he was a goalie. Because the team only bought 21 jerseys.
Which one of us is going to wear number 21 to honor our fathers?
Can both wear 21.
This is the All-Star game, Geeta.
I'm okay. I don't need 21.
That being said, on our rant, I actually quite like the Toronto Maple Leafs team, and I want to see them succeed and beat the shithead Boston Bruins. But the media, I'm headed up to here with them. But I are the three.
But I like the media frenzy. I want to see what they do in the second round.
That's true. And I
want to see them lose their minds.
They'll lose their minds if they don't get to the second round.
That too.
And then if they do get to the second round, they don't have one Bobby Orr. They've got 6 Bobby Orrs.
What is this? The jersey? Or the sweater? What was it called?
Oh, the hockey sweater.
Yeah.
Everybody was Morgan Riley. We had 6 Morgan Rileys against 6 other identical Morgan Riley. We all styled our hair with the glue the way they did it in West Vancouver. We played it.
It's like we're like P Mac. P Mac, Morgan Riley, all the West Vancouver boys.
We played at the church which had the frozen pond, but because of climate change, we played the roller hockey because the rinks were too much money.
Yeah, that does sound like the Vancouver hockey. We should write the Vancouver hockey sweater. Because growing up, I never got to play ice hockey because it's never cold enough. And then they're like, when you live in North Vancouver, North Shore Winter Club, it's like $9,000 a year to play or something.
Wait a minute. You don't have $9,000 to play
Sorry, Paul Correa over here's got the money. He's going to play.
This Paul's going to play.
You can play on the asphalt on the old lacrosse box behind Ross Road Elementary School.
With your skates on, sparks everywhere.
We did play at the lacrosse box behind Ross Road Elementary when I was a kid.
Things are going terrible for the Maple Leafs, but we'll hope they turn it around. Speaking of former Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm going to incorporate a listener question from this. Actually, there's a couple. But Luke Shen is having the redemption tour of a lifetime.
We're still talking about the Maple Leafs?
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Former Maple Leafs.
Oh, right.
He's
Luke Shen.
The Matt Stajan of defense.
The future captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Luke Shen.
They're not going to try to lure him back, right?
Oh, of course they are. Brian Burke anointed him as the future captain, and it will happen. They still need a captain.
Actually, because we were talking about Bobby Orr for about 15 minutes, there was a question I want to get into now. Nux on the Pond asks, what are the chances Quinn Hughes is better than Bobby Orr, and why is it over 100%? And
we kind of covered that.
We covered it. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about there.
It's just a wait and see.
Just careful with the knees there, Quinn.
Well, Morgan Riley is going to be the next Bobby Orr, and then Quinn will be the next Bobby Orr through Morgan.
What are
Riley.
people? A lot of people were
By
like,
proxy.
when people are trying to pump the brakes on the Bobby Orr stuff this week, I saw everything from like, okay, let's Paul Coffey, and then somebody, no, that's too Phil Housley, no, that's Brian Rafalski. Okay, yeah, it seemed people settled around Brian
Elias
Rafalski.
Pettersson played like Bobby Orr.
Well, he does, but he's a forward, and we need a proper comparison that's absolutely perfect. We need Paul Coffey, but with at least a guy like Paul Coffey with 5 Stanley. Larry Robinson. Oh, wait, okay, that doesn't work either. That's basically what we talk about.
I feel like I saw a lot of people settle on Brian Rafalski, which was funny, and I was like,
Brian Rafalski.
He's a key part of some Stanley Cup winning teams.
But not a name that should spring to mind.
Set your sights
On
at an
Luke.
respectable.
Set your sights at Brian Rafalski, but if you reach for
Bobby Orr.
Lidstrom, if you arrive at Lidstrom, great.
Nick Cronwall. There you go. Maybe that's a good comparison. Nick Cronwall.
We got to compare these hockey players. That's all we got to do.
Yeah. Everyone has to be like somebody else. Luke
That
Shen.
seems like really cheap analysis, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's just make comparisons and call it a day.
Well, I mean, that's what all they do at the draft coverage. Derek Pouliot, he got a game like Michael Delzato.
Yeah.
Boy, was that funny 5 years later.
I mean, that was pretty accurate.
Now
Really.
he's got Delzato's game.
I'm going to the out-of-town scoreboard here, and the Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues are going to a shootout, which is a big 3-point game for
The Avalanche?
That's big for keeping the Arizona Coyotes out of the playoffs. But Geeta, you made a joke in the group chat. Well, I mean, one of the group chats that that we didn't have any St. Louis Blues coverage.
No, yeah, you sent this rundown to me, and there was no mention of the St. Louis Blues at all, and I've been pushing for them all season.
I was going to say, we just breezed past Luke Shen. You're like, now Luke Shen.
We'll get
and then
back
we
to
did
Luke
not
Shen.
talk about it.
You mean Matt Staget. We'll get back to him.
There's a former Maple Leaf on the St. Louis Blues and Tyler Bozak who's providing some seriously delightful depth scoring. But they were last in the league on January 3rd, and they've clinched the playoffs pretty high spot with games to spare.
Therefore, it can be done.
And they're going to play Nashville in the first round more than likely. And I mean, that is a team running hot, and Nashville's kind of had their struggles. I wouldn't bet against the St. Louis Blues, a team that's just, everything's working. Everything's really working for them. Everything coming together right
That's
now.
the thing. No one pays attention to them, and no one watches them, so no one really knows how good they are.
They've got maybe the hottest goalie in the NHL, and that's a big reason why they're doing what they're doing. Bennington has come in and just
Potentially winning
run
the
with it.
Calder.
if anyone's giving Pettersson a little bit of trouble for that, you look at him, you look at Dahlin, or is it Dahlin?
No, Darlene, they have their own problems because
Yeah, he had a bit of a... He was picking up in the middle of the season, but not as much lately. So, yeah, you look at it. Maybe Bennington, if they go on if they were to win, even just like win their way into the conference final or something,
Right?
he'll probably get a much longer look than if they're,
It's been a long time
1-0.
since St. Louis has gotten that far.
yeah. And plus, if they don't watch those games, so they don't watch those playoff games start about 5:00, so they're actually going to start watching the St. Louis Blues play. God knows we're not. But Bennington has a 1.85 goals against average and a 9.28 save percentage, which is pretty damn impressive.
They've got a lot of good offense there. A lot of guys that were underachieving earlier in the season, but you look at when he hasn't been injured, Perron picked up his game quite a bit as the season went along. Even Jaden Schwartz, who never really quite got back, he's still recovering from that injury like a year and a half ago or whenever it was.
But
if he does bring offense in a game or two every week, whatever, it's unexpected and there's depth. Like he's winding up on the second, third line when he was a 50-some point guy not that long ago.
They were playoff bound last year, right? And then
they were on the bubble. Remember?
Then they made the trade.
Yeah, they traded Paul Stastny to Winnipeg, and the locker room was like, "Well, what the hell's going on?" And that clearly seeped into this, the next season.
Right.
And then they had a coaching change, and then they just figured it out. And
Yeah.
and it's like the opposite effect of the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you're a team that's running hot entering the playoffs, you got a goalie that's hot. Those are the two things you need to.
Right.
And it's it's really not everybody can be the LA Kings of 2012 where they enter the playoffs ice cold and then just instantly figure it out. So watch for St. Louis.
So from Braden Shen
To Luke Shen.
I feel like this is the third time we've set this segment up.
let's talk about the Oilers now.
What do you guys think? Like,
I love it. I love that they have a smart, defensively sound D-man that can also protect the kids, lay the body, but you're not wasting you have a tough guy in the lineup, but it's not a wasted roster spot.
No.
And I really like that Luke Shen is not a goon. Luke Shen is just a tough, highly touted
Journeyman.
He's a journeyman now at the age of 29 that can play the game well, and he just once he gets his confidence back and he gets playing and he's that far away from the AHL, like that's a good spot. That's a good player to have in that spot. It's not like you're wasting it on a Ryan Reeves or something.
Right. I like that he's exactly that. That he is making an impression both on the ice and off it, and he's that type of player.
I like Ryan Reeves, first of all, fourth line player.
I love Ryan Reeves.
He can play. So anyway, I don't like that comparison.
Tom Stastito.
Luke Shen, I like him. I'm fine with the Canucks extending him, bringing him back next year, playing in that third line role. Or ideally, you want him probably as a 7 guy. You want him probably replacing Alex Biega. Sorry, Boom Boom Biega. Back to the minors.
Hey, he's looking like a bald, shitty Bobby Orr right now. He's all over the place.
I don't mind. I've always said this. Biega is a great depth guy that you want sitting in the press box every night that plays a game here or there when you have injuries. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just don't know if I think he's an NHL guy.
Okay.
I think Dave would agree with me.
I got to get that Wellwood clip because we've latched onto that.
But here's the thing with Luke Shen. His underlying numbers, which I know we're not supposed to talk about fancy stats.
We're allowed to when it involves.
And I don't go too in depth.
When we're trying to describe the very minusculely thin positives and negatives about what makes a good player and a bad player, please bring into the fancy
I
stats.
use just very general. I look them up and see if they back up my eye test. So what I've thought with Luke Shen is he was very good at first.
1 second question. When you performed this eye test, did you bring your glasses?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, some games I forget, but most nights I put on the old spectacles. So Luke Shen, I feel like has middled down, but his physical side of his game definitely stepped up. He had the 12-hit game, most by any Canucks defenseman in a game, and we noticed him that night. By the end of the first period, we were like, how many 5 hits? And if he was in Las Vegas, I said he would have had like 18 or 19 hits credited that night because some of the pushes and shoves get credited in certain arenas that don't in others. So he's doing stuff. The underlying numbers, he's not great, but he is still considerably better than anything Eric Goodbranson ever did in his time in Vancouver, especially this season and last season was sub 40 when you're looking at the Corsi numbers. Luke Shen is up past 45, which is considerably better. It's noticeably better.
Do we think this is Luke Shen's last shot? And then that's why he has to make such an impression?
I mean, it is a 19-year-old's NHL. It's a 19-year-old's NHL game, and he did get cast away from a pretty crappy team in. It could be, but I mean, if he can carve out that spot, because this is a team that needs that very specific role, he could. They're looking to extend him for likely a year, and if he spends an entire year with an NHL team and works his way into that role and just is focused on playing that sixth defenseman that can just hit and play defensively sound, like he could have a good year next year. And this could be he could play till his early 30s and still play in the NHL on a team that is allegedly on the up and up. So it's a good spot for him.
Last chance. I think it's definitions, right? It's like this or potentially like a PTO in the fall.
Right.
The Scotty Upshaw approach.
Probably the last shot he has, because even if he does make, whether it's the Canucks or another team for next season, he's not 3 years max, maybe. The type of game he plays.
Yeah.
And to finish the underlying number type of stuff, everyone's been super high on Eric Branson in Pittsburgh. His numbers are ridiculously better than they were any time in Vancouver.
Oh, Norris Trophy candidate.
Luke Shen is not that. He's just a whisker behind what Eric Goodbranson is doing in Pittsburgh. Granted, Goodbranson's playing some more minutes.
But he's doing it in Vancouver.
But he's doing it in Vancouver. So that's why I'm getting to the point where if you want that physical guy, you want someone on the right side, ideally, in a perfect world, he's going to be sitting in the press box more nights than not next year, and you bring him in when you need him.
Or he goes to Pittsburgh and says, look at what I did here.
Wins a Stanley Cup.
I could do this for you.
Now, if he makes the same jump,
and then some.
If he can do the same numbers jump with Corsi that Goodbranson did, he might very well be a Norris nominee. You know, stranger things have happened.
You know,
in which case, he's extended his career another 5 to 7 years.
Somebody called David Arbor. Stranger things are happening.
Here's my biggest gripe with Luke Shen coming in. It's like, this is a guy that makes like no money.
Yeah.
And they got him for nothing, and he's playing on par, if not better, in the uniform than a guy like Eric Goodbranson, who they overpaid for in a trade and then overpaid for in a contract extension.
Yeah.
And that's like the one thing that really irks me about the Canucks, and I think that separates them from the good teams. Like we talked about last week.
Is dumb moves like that.
Well, they have acquired their skills players, and they're overpaying for their depth guys.
Right.
And well, with Calgary, they have their randomly strung together, affordable, homegrown fourth line that's producing every night.
Yeah.
Or guys like Nick Dowd in Washington. You should be cultivating your own, depth guys that produce the way that you want the way you want them to do. You want to produce your own Jay Beagles, and then you sell your Jay Beagle off to a sucker. But it's just like they're not doing that in Vancouver, which kind of really upsets me. We're starting to see that with Adam Gaudette, which kind of makes you feel better. But it's like, we figured out how to get the top 6, but the bottom 6 we're just going to pay way too much money for. And it just...
do they have to do that in order to get people to come to Vancouver now?
Maybe? I don't know.
There's probably a little bit of that. And there's such a fear of becoming the Edmonton Oilers if you don't bring in a Jay Beagle or two here or there.
Right.
That they're spending money probably based on fear, and maybe ownership possibly saying, we need this.
Yeah.
Who knows? We don't know what's happening behind the scenes there. But yeah, you do want to develop, when you talk about a big physical veteran defenseman that you want on your bottom pairing, you don't go out and spend what they did on Eric Goodbranson, is what we learned.
Or Jack Johnson in Pittsburgh.
Or Jack Johnson.
I know we can only reference 2 teams here, but...
You want to bring in a Luke Shen, or if you bring a few of those guys in on PTOs or something, and find your bargain basement.
Like that's what you do. That's what you do in the and I just
for fourth line and bottom pairing guys, you try to just bring in the best of the best from the AHL, or guys looking for a second chance in the NHL, and that's how you fill those roles at $1 million instead of $3 million for a fourth line player.
Plus, I was thinking, I'm really glad I remembered this because I thought about this over the weekend. But you pay for Jay Beagle's intangibles that he had that effect on that specific Washington Capitals dressing room because he'd been there forever and he's built those relationships and that chemistry with those players. Well, shit, we want those exact tangibles to apply to this team when you have 23 different human beings in a room, and maybe it doesn't resonate that way, or they go, I don't like what you're doing off the ice, and I really don't like that, and I think that a lot gets lost when you want to talk about the intangibles, and there are intangibles in the game, and you can't pay for them necessarily.
No.
That's just what's been on my mind the last little bit, Paul.
But it's good to see Luke Shen, especially if he sticks around. That's the thing I'm afraid of, though. If he sticks around at a discount price, it's great. What if they end up giving him $2 million or more a year.
Well, he's making like 18. I think he's making 42.5 right now. So I mean, he'll probably at least get double that.
42.5.
That's an inside joke.
I don't even. Yeah.
I'm not on the inside of that joke either.
Do you want me
Okay,
to say
listeners,
it?
I hope you
Maybe.
hope you're inside.
When I was having, when I started the new job,
Oh, right.
should I still tell it?
His dad thought he was making a lot less than what he is making.
Okay.
And my dad looked at me and it's like, "What are you making at the new job?" I'm like, "Well, I don't want to tell
More.
you, and I've told you. You've forgotten." He's like, "What are you making? 42.5?" And I'm like,
Okay.
and I was like, "Why would you why did that number instantly come really quickly?" And I'm
That
like,
was like everybody's starting pay.
yeah, like when you get a good job, you're making 42.5, and I'm like, Dad, like I mean, nothing wrong with people that are. I've actually,
But that's, I mean, he's talking
No.
about an entry level job.
Yeah.
Like,
Now all
it's
our
our
listeners-
first job out of school.
yeah.
Our listeners know Ryan's pulling on the big bucks.
Yeah, I'm making a little bit more than 42.5. You could say that I'm making.
Don't tell them that. They won't give you Patreon dollars.
A couple of bucks, apparently. Anyhow, if Shen comes in at a discount next year, that's fine.
If they get
That's
him,
great.
If he's like making $2 million, again, just fire him. Just fire Chip.
Yeah, I think one of the questions we had too was how much do you think Ben Hutton's going to be making
Let's go to the
now that
question.
his contract's up? Yeah,
42.
everyone gets 42.5. I think Ben he had a good year this year, so some folks are going to think he's going to deserve a huge raise. The problem is
No.
this year was the first year he probably earned the contract he got last time.
Mhm.
That is
So
still his rookie contract.
no, he's making just short of 3 right now. So I think
Okay.
they'll give him whatever the minimum is and a little extra, so he'll be making maybe 3.1 a year, and it'll probably be a short term 2 or 3.
Right.
I mean, not super short, but like 2 or 3 years at 3.1 ish. I'm thinking
You
they might go more than that, but that's the thing. I think it's a deception thing where you go, well, he took a big step up this year. We got to pay him a lot more money, but
He's
they gave
young.
him a lot of money last time, and it took him 3 years or
Yeah.
whatever to build up to like, oh, he's earning that $3 million a year now as he's a second pairing defenseman, but on a good team, he's a third pairing defenseman. That's still where he sits. I like him. I'm fine with him sticking around,
Right.
but I think they do have a bit of a build-up on the left side, and Travis Green's not a fan of playing guys, left-handed guys on the right side and vice versa.
Yeah.
He is likely the type of guy they might sell high on because he had a good year, and he's got some offensive flair, so the numbers this year were okay, and the eye test says, hey, this is a guy who might project as a top 4 defenseman for us for the next 4 or 5 years. They might be able to get something for him at this point.
Well, they got Luke Shen too, so.
Luke's a righty, but
Oh shit. They got Biega.
Paul wants him in the press box.
Biega's a
all
righty, too.
times.
Oh, you just got all the answers, eh?
anyway, that's the thing. They've got a lot of, and Oli Ulevi even is a lefty as well, so he comes in next year.
Is that his video game hand?
Sure, maybe.
That question came from Lionel Rust at Dirtface.
Okay.
I used to work with Lionel.
Ah.
A long, long time ago. We worked together at Choices Market.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dirtface? You and Dirtface?
Yes, I know Dirtface.
Hey,
He worked in the deli at White Rock Choices Market with me in
I hope-
2007.
Well, I hope
Right.
he washed his face when he handled the meats. This next question comes from Chris Faber at Chris Faber 39. He's at a podcast, big 20th episode. He has about 14 guests on that show. It's going to be about 9 hours long.
Are you on it?
No, these are like I don't know what he's doing to get these guests, but like I don't know, like a handful. Actually, Walker is going to be on it. So
Of
he'll-
course.
So
He won't be on our show now just because I labeled him the bad boy of Vancouver media.
yeah, I mean, Geeta's whisper says it like it is. What's he going to do? He's going to come in here with his swoopy hair and be like, I'm going to tell all the things that are going to piss everybody off.
Do you know how mad Dave is going to get if we bring in Walker to be the new bad boy on the show? Dave is going to fly in and they're going to have a street fight.
Both wearing their leather jackets. Both with their hot takes.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to actually have a fist fight. It'll be a hot takes fight in the streets.
You think that the Columbus Blue Jackets gamble is going to pay off? You're an idiot. His question is, which playoff squad is the most physically intimidating roster? and we've been humming and hawing about the Boston Bruins being
Bruins, I think, in the East.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets in the West.
Winnipeg's got some weight to them. San Jose can still play a bit of a heavy game.
Yeah.
Las Vegas.
A lot of beef out west is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the West is heavier than the East, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the East as often, so...
Someone out there, weigh these teams for us.
I mean, that's public knowledge. We just need to do a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Interesting fact, if you look at the most penalized teams
Mm-hmm.
coming to the end of the season, Boston, from the playoff teams anyway, Boston leads Colorado in the 2
Okay.
slot. Can you guess who number 3 is? You wouldn't expect it necessarily.
It is the Dallas Stars.
The Tampa Bay Lightning are number 3. And we
Oh.
talked about they're not a physically big, at least the forwards aren't, group. There are a lot of, you got a lot of 6'1" and under forwards. You don't have
Okay.
those big boys. But they play
You
at
don't
least...
need to be big to take a penalty.
That's true. And I did look at fighting majors, which changes. Boston, Colorado are 1-2, and then Nashville and Winnipeg come in right after that. So, I mean, if you're talking about guys that are willing to drop the gloves, which usually means more of the heavier type of penalties as
Right.
opposed to the little hooks and slash type stuff, those are the 4 that rank at the top. But yeah, Boston, as we said, are sort of an outlier in these. You look down the rosters, though, of the playoff teams. There aren't a lot of teams you'd look at and go, that is a heavy team like we've looked at in the past. Who are the physical teams that have had success? I mean, now we're talking about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no team really in the playoffs. Boston, we're saying, is one of the heavier teams. They're not even really a super they are a physical team.
Well, they have one guy that could kill the entire other team with his bare hands.
Those literal bear hands that he ripped off a bear and
That-
wears under his gloves.
That joke never gets old. Let's go to the next question here. This is from Matthias Flauman. He goes, I was at the game where Quinn debuted, and I never heard the arena buzz like that for a defenseman. Who do you recall ever having that reception in the past? Now, I can't remember one because, like, Quinn Hughes was just, like, dropped from a helicopter
Right.
into the game. It wasn't like when Pettersson had those... I know
camp and preseason.
Yeah. Now the only comparison I can make off the top of my head is Pavel Bure, because he didn't have any. He just showed up one night off of Red Army train, and then he hopped on and they wouldn't let him wear 96, and he started playing, and the whole place was ecstatic because they never
Right.
seen anything like that.
And we're too young to really remember that.
Yeah, exactly. We don't remember the buzz.
So that's the only thing I can think of. Is
I was going to make it. You know who had a lot of buzz as a blue liner? We were at the game, his real breakout game, Ben Hutton Mania Hutton.
now if I could rewind the
yeah.
tape to Paul going, man, he's not that good. They're probably gonna want to sell high on him.
No, I said I like him, but positionally that he's the type of guy that they're going to look at probably
Yeah.
moving. But remember going into that game, Ryan and I are at this preseason. Oh,
Yeah.
Ben Hutton, I've heard good things about him.
Okay.
And he's like, well, you heard good things about this college kid. He's probably not going to be noticeable at all. 4-point night. I was like, Ben Hutton. I told you. I read things about him.
I wish this was a video podcast for that one moment of Paul's body language.
Anyway, yeah. So that was the last time I remember that kind of buzz. It is sort of like we've reached peak. We're in an era where you hear so much more about
Yeah.
prospects, and people pump the tires of prospects more than they ever have probably in
Well,
the
he
history of
lived
the
up
NHL.
to it. He lived up to it, which was the shocking thing.
But
But
as far
again,
as
it's such a small sample.
The Kings are a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Their head coach is so good. He's won at every
national
level.
team head
It's like
coach,
he's won like a
Age.
silver or a bronze at the last Olympic.
no, I don't think they got a
WHL.
medal, did they?
But they did. I don't know.
They got a bronze.
Did they? Okay, I forgot. I didn't watch that game.
This guy has won so much at the American League level and the Western Hockey League level that he told a first overall draft pick, Ilya Kovalchuk, why don't you stay home? I'm going to coach this team to success.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying, not that he didn't perform to be worthy of that buzz that night,
Yeah.
but the way the crowd acted is just a result of the hype that you get from prospects, but also from what we've seen from Elias Pettersson this year and Brock Besser last year,
Right.
where now the expectation when that guy comes in as a 19-year-old is like, this guy is going to be Rookie of the Year material, and he's going to score 1 billion goals and be better than Bobby Orr.
And don't
And
forget,
who
when
gives-
they have his brother.
You know what brothers mean. If you're in Vancouver, that's at least one conference championship in 20 years. So we're set. We are set as long as the draft lottery goes okay. But yeah, no, the buzz was almost funny. Like, I was laughing at it like it was ridiculous. But he did make a couple of nice plays and looks better than most 19-year-olds.
One of my earliest memories of watching hockey is my dad took a photo of me in my like pajamas sitting on the edge of the couch to the right of the TV, and there's the Canucks are playing the Jets, and I was watching Pavel Bure, and I was sitting like this watching it. And that photo's like been around forever, and it's just like it's a family photo. And then I was over at my mom's place Thursday night as I had to pick up her car, and I'm like, fuck, I'm missing Quinn Hughes' debut. So I raced over there at the intermission.
Okay.
And I was watching the third period. I didn't plan for this, but I was sitting exactly like I did watching Pavel Bure as a 5-year-old.
Okay.
As a 31-ish year old watching with whimsy as he did as he played his debut in an overtime. And I was like, why am I sitting like it was just this very natural, organic, like just joy and positive response. And
So you heard it here first, folks. Quinn Hughes is the next Pavel Bure. But he plays defense, too.
well, he's better than Bobby Orr.
Oh, my gosh. We are so excited.
Megan Kennedy did a Wanderlust Megan. She is a Patreon backer and our shadow producer, as she did last week. How excited are you guys after watching Hughes' debut? We just answered that. It's great seeing that excitement for him and energy in the arena. We already answered that. So luckily, she said, I'll throw another one out at you.
Can I just one last sort of Hughes thing? After listening to that buzz around Quinn Hughes at the arena, when Olli Juolevi makes his debut at Rogers Arena, you folks better be just as exciting and encouraging of that young man as you were for Quinn, because he needs that support after all of this stuff on the internet about him being addicted to gaming.
Here's what happens. That's really funny. When Olli Juolevi scores his first NHL goal, you know how they throw rats on the ice?
I'm not throwing a controller.
Come on.
No.
By
Gonna
God.
hurt somebody.
Just
that was an N64 one. That got him right in the eye.
That's got some weight to it, Jim. And Olli Juolevi's career is in jeopardy. All because of a tongue-in-cheek jab. Megan Kennedy, who's everyone cheering for when the playoffs start? And Geeta's got a lot of horses in the race, so you can go first.
I clearly have way too many. So there's Dallas. They're definitely getting in. St. Louis.
St. Louis won in the shootout over Colorado.
We really like Toronto here. And San Jose.
That's fair,
Yeah.
Paul, who are you cheering for?
And Montreal, don't forget. And Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I'm just cheering. I
And
want
Nashville.
everybody to win.
Nashville, PK Subban.
Oh, yeah.
As I said before the show, Geeta's just going to be sitting there with one of those signs that says, I just hope all the players have a good time.
Ask me in the second round.
I think you've rattled off teams I'm excited for.
And the Islanders.
Everybody. All 14 teams. P Mac, you got any teams that you're cheering for?
I mean, if the Habs could squeak in somehow, growing up with my dad being a Habs fan, there's always something. Plus, like, no one will expect them to do anything in the playoffs. So I like Carey Price. I like, enough of those guys that, it'll be fun to see what they can do just as enormous underdogs. They would probably be taking on Tampa Bay if they can make it in. But, I think Winnipeg's my team. I lived there for, a third of last year.
Sounds like you've lived there a third of your life.
I'm wearing my Jets shirt tonight. I adopted them as a team to support because I got there just after they got eliminated from the playoffs, but I had been promised by the boss who signed me to a contract out there for the summer.
Off.
Not quite. But the boss had said if they made the finals, my team was going to go with him to the game. So we were especially pulling for that to get a shot at
With the amount of gear we have, we could fake like we're a Jets podcast.
Yeah, we're a Flyers podcast.
Didn't we already talk about Pucks on Jet? That's
That's our playoff
on the
episode.
rig, Pucks on Jet, Kachucks on net.
Chuck's on.
We've got almost every Canadian team covered.
That's
Montreal and Toronto have enough media. So
Speaking of Kachucks on net, Ryan Hank, good friend, always 94 up in Kelowna, asks, is it possible for Calgary versus Tampa happening again this season?
Wait.
Yes.
Before we answer that, we didn't talk about Drew Doughty and Matt Tkachuk.
Okay.
I really wanted to.
What do you want? All right. Well, let's go to some Pucks on Net Readers Theater as we interrupt listener questions. Paul, are you looking at your notes on your phone?
I didn't. That time I was looking at the clock because I know we're running a little long. But I have been referencing. I do homework.
Okay, because I'm like, I print these out every Monday.
And then I do some homework with what you print out for us.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it's not your notes. They're my own notes.
Drew Doughty on Matt Tkachuk. I wish I had no front teeth. Got no respect for him. I respect everyone else. I'll never talk to him off the ice. He's not respected by most people in the league. It's not just me. That's a fact. Drew Doughty on the Norris Trophy race. All you've got to do is watch one San Jose Sharks game, and you'll see Brent Burns get beat 3 times a game, literally. And everybody has him up in the Norris. I just don't get it. And hilarious little side note, Calgary Flames award Matthew Tkachuk the J.R. McKaig Award, which is given to the player who most exemplifies virtues of respect, courtesy, and compassion.
So who's right?
I mean,
Flames organization or Drew Doughty?
I feel like that award probably has more to do with off-ice contributions because a lot of those guys that have horrible reputations on the ice are actually good guys with like children's charities and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's probably what that is.
But I mean, just the fact that he's like, no respect, nobody, never talk to him off the ice. Here's your award for being respectful off the ice, Matthew Tkachuk. I like it. I got no qualms with Drew Doughty shooting his mouth off. He
I enjoy it.
He's obviously having a bad season with cold ketchup Ty McGee named Willie Desjardins.
Well, and I can name 2 players now that aren't getting invited to the Shaker this summer.
Who?
Burnsy and Tkachuk. They ain't going to that Shaker down on Long Beach.
Big Pacific Division Shaker, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's not going to the playoffs. There's going to be some Shakers.
There will be some
very soon.
Yeah.
Get us in.
I'll work on that.
You know, I was in the King's room, and I was one of the only. For a while, I was the only guy in the King's room, so I might be able to get us that invite. You know, Dustin Brown and Andrzej Kopitar seemed okay with me.
I recognize that voice.
Yeah, bring him in. I recognize that voice from. Was it a podcast? No, it was from the locker room. But
They're more likely to recognize your arm.
You got to keep your mic to your mouth for us to hear you.
Oh, you're doing an arm impression.
Just trying to show what I look like when you see me on Sportsnet most of the time. Yeah, you can tell my hand. I've got the maroon, like 10-year-old Sony recorder. So when you see that in there, that's me. My mom can pick it out of the crowd now. She tells me.
Aww.
Anyway, but yeah, he's got a point with the Burnsy thing. Like
People love Brent Burns.
Well, just offensive defensemen in general get the Norris, but like it's supposed to be best defenseman, not best offensive defenseman, not best rover.
That's how Doughty's making a case for himself.
So I mean,
well, I love that Drew Doughty is so mad at Matthew Tkachuk for being so disrespectful and not respecting his elders and being a loudmouth and a hot shot, even though that's all the things Drew Doughty has made a legitimate career out of. So it's just so great that he's getting his own medicine and he just hates it.
I know, but again, I'm sure it goes right back to being really frustrated with how their season went under their coach.
Willie.
It could be a meta thing. He could be very aware.
A lot of people are frustrated playing under that coach.
He could be very aware of what he's saying. Like guys like Ryan Kessler and Kevin Bieksa like loved and feasted on saying things that were ironic, but they were in on the joke. Like I didn't hear this interview. I don't know Drew Doughty as well as I know those guys. There's very well a chance that he could have been saying this like tongue in cheek type of thing.
Might have just eaten a couple milk hot dogs. You never know.
Good for you. Let's
Did we all get that?
Calcium.
All get that reference?
I vaguely remember the term.
They wanted to see how many times they could sneak the word milk hot dogs into a scrum.
Oh.
Yeah, that was what, 5-6 years ago probably now. Back when they used to win cups.
Something that was 15 years ago and for a cup. Is it possible for Calgary Tampa in the finals? Yes, it is. And Average Joe asks, when do we start getting Shitty Beatles updates? I think I talked about it on the top of the show. And he has a team named Mick Glovin, and they had the same beer sponsorship that we did. April 28th, It's going to be a loud team, and Dave's not here to pitch anymore, so we have some holes in the bullpen, but we're going to overcome that.
Don't look at me.
That's fair. And
I sit on their bench.
I might do that this year.
please come by.
If you let me know when the games are, I might come by.
Sundays. Except the long weekends and Mother's Day. Why weren't you paying attention?
Ooh, I got a dark joke.
I'll need location.
Do you want to save it for?
No, it's good but don't worry, Paul. I know you can come to the Father's Day game because there is one there and not on Mother's Day.
Is Jeff, the podcast dad, gonna be there?
I'll ask him. Well, he's probably with his children.
Well, he can bring them.
Yeah, they can play.
We're all his children.
No, that's like U.S. Open Sunday.
So then that'll wrap up the podcast for this week, and we're gonna take next week off, unless something drastically changes. But
we might do like a draft lottery night, quick response, depending on how busy you are.
If something happens Tuesday night, Paul and I will get on the horn, or all of us will get on the horn. But it's quite a dull time, and we could use a little break because the playoffs ramp up. But unless Carolina, I don't even know what could happen. But we'll just sit back. But there might not be a show next week.
Evander Holyfield signs a contract to go into the playoffs because they don't think they're tough enough.
And he's in with that team. I like that.
That's what I'm saying.
So that'll wrap up the podcast for this week. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at pucksnet.ca or pucksnetca. And while you're at it, go follow the Instagram page. I'm making an effort to be more socially active on Instagram.
He really is.
Did you see that? Oh, you got to join Instagram. I found these Alaska. Oh, I tweeted them, but those Alaska Aces Canucks jerseys.
I did see those. Yeah,
I never seen those before.
Yeah, they're kind of
weird,
interesting.
Instagram. Oh, and go to pucksnet.ca.
They're not a team anymore, though.
No. Go sign up for the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, congrats to Matt's best team for winning all that $100. And if you want to pay a couple of bucks, head on over to patreon.com/pucksonnet where you can pledge a couple of bucks. And get instant access to all our bonus content, including the segment we're going to record shortly after this, and as well as our bonus episodes and all that jazz, and you get access to show notes, and you help fund the show and keep the lights on. I guess that's it. Oh, go rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. I didn't say that. That's the best way to support the show for free if you don't want to give us any money. And other than that, just go like all our social media outlets and tell a friend. Tell a VPD or a West Vancouver Police Department officer.
Well, it sounds like we got that department covered, so maybe like Delta PD, VPD, all the other PDs.
All the
Mounties?
So walk up to a cop and just let them know. Hey.
Write them a little note.
Don't just go up and shout at them. That might startle them.
This is a weird end, but yeah.
As the siren goes.
Go behind you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Move,